Okay, so I chose to do my presentation over Wolfgang Mozart. Mozart was born on January 27th, 1756 in Salzburg, Austria. He came from a pretty well-off family. His father Leopold actually was a composer at the time, and he also wrote a violin playing manual that was pretty famous. Um, so Mozart came from a family who knew a lot about music, so he grew up playing music. He started playing at a really young age. At age 3, he was playing the chords from the harpsichord. At 4, he could play short pieces, and at 5, he was already composing. Um, at age 6, his father took him to Munich to play at the Bavarian court, and also went to Vienna and played at the imperial court in noble houses with his sister. Him and his sister were actually the only 2 children out of 7 to survive, so they went around and played music together, and they grew up playing music together. Um, his father was very dedicated to Mozart's musical career because he was considered a child prodigy. They traveled all over Europe for Mozart to perform. Um, his first piece was actually published when he was 7, and he also published his first opera when he was 12 in Italy. As Mozart became more popular, him and his father traveled together for Mozart to perform. They made trips to Italy where Mozart composed operas and performed his music that he wrote. At the age of 10 to 17, Mozart grew in popularity. He was just as well known as many of the older composers of the day. Um, when he was 10, he spent 3 years at Salzburg, his hometown, writing music for schools in German and Latin. But when he was 14, him and his father actually moved to Italy to try to gain more popularity as an opera composer. Um, in Milan, Italy, he got commissioned for an opera. In Rome, he became a member of an honorary knightly order by the Pope. While in Italy, he was also given membership of the Accademia Philharmonica, which was actually unheard of at the time because members were supposed to be over 20 and he was not. Um, while traveling Italy, he produced his first serious opera, like the Mithridate in 1770 and Lucio Silla in 1772. And he also produced his first string of quartets. Um, and then in 1771, he started writing symphonies. And in 1778, um, Mozart moved to Paris to further his career. The 9 months he was there was very difficult for him. He was no longer considered a child prodigy because he was an adult, and his mom actually died while he was in Paris, which was also a really hard time for him. Um, he then moved back to Salzburg writing music because he couldn't get hired for an opera. Before Mozart moved to Vienna, um, so while he was in Salzburg, he was treated like a servant. Back in the day, um, in the classical period, musicians were treated like servants, and Mozart couldn't stand being treated like that. So he actually moved to Vienna in hopes of making money as being a pianist and a composer. While he was in Vienna, Mozart was very successful. He had a very successful period and was very popular. However, as his popularity declined, he began to have money issues and he couldn't handle his money. So he actually ended up dying in debt in December of 1791. Mozart's works and his style was very flexible, and he actually wrote in multiple musical genres like the symphony, opera, solo concerto, string quartet, and quintet, and also the piano sonato. Um, Mozart's pieces clearly demonstrate music during the classical period. His music is graceful and calm, and it feels under control and balanced. His pieces kind of have a dark feel to them and are very powerful and dramatic. One of his most powerful and dramatic pieces is Symphony Number 40 in GK minor, 550. Um, this symphony has 4 movements: fast, slow, minuet, um, and then fast again. The tension increases as the symphony moves on. So here's an example of the beginning part of Symphony number 40 in G minor, K 550. Okay, so Mozart was also popular for the operas he put together. He had an extraordinary ability to coordinate the music and the action on the stage. He was very good in the theater and excellent at personalizing the characters through the tone of the music. Um, a lot of his operas are actually comedy. Three of his most famous opera comedies are The Marriage of Figaro in 1786 and Don Giovanni in 1787. And All Women Behave Like This in 1770. We're actually going to listen to a piece from Don Giovanni in Acts 1. So So, as I said earlier, Mozart actually died in debt in 1791. However, he is still known as one of the greatest composers of the classical period. Thanks for watching.